Greetings, my fellow film lovers, and thinkers, LOP Reviews Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from beautiful Swampy Mango, South Florida, and today's date is Sunday, October 21st, 2018. So let us begin. Thanks for listening in, my friends. I know it's been a while since I did a episode. Sorry about that. But it's been working a lot. Crazy hours, and I'll be zombified if I'll be talking to you guys. I gotta work tonight too, so yeah, I'm at this place called Spatch, a chicken joint, 468 North Federal Highway in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and just seeing how their Wi-Fi and all that is. Pretty good so far. You maybe hear some music in the background and all that. There's a coffee shop called Press and Grind on the opposite side, north end of it. So I know a lot of people talking about the journalist, investigative journalist from Washington Post, who was in the consulate in Saudi Arabia. There's a claim he got murdered, missing, and all that. And it's interesting because I always said this for years, that the war on journalism continues. Been going on for a very long time. And why this individual, I don't know. I have to, do a little more reading, see what's going on with that. But it's just one of those things people have to really look at. And, of course, I like to see people on the post, Trump and the Saudis, let that sink in with the whole 9/11 ordeal. I was like, look, to be very frank, his predecessors did the same thing. George W. Bush, Barack Obama did the same thing, okay? So all you Trump haters out there, you better look a little more deeper before putting stuff like that on there, because I will counter it, honorably speaking, without picking on you. So I'm going to be talking about that. However, there's some interesting news I've been checking out, and this one here came from News Reviews. It says here, Soros Group kicked out of Hungary. Is by Reverend Austin Miles. As it reads here, after growing pressure from the right-wing government in Hungary, George Soros' pro-democracy Open Society Foundation was shown the door to get out of the country. Prime Minister Viktor Orban, in the midst of a crackdown on non-government organizations, accused Soros, a Jewish immigrant who survived Nazi-occupied Hungary, of trying to wrest control of their native country from those elected to office. The Prime Minister was correct in this assessment. It is exactly what Soros intended to do, take over the country, the same as he is attempting to do with the United States, using the very same tactics. The way Soros survived the Nazi occupation was to work for them by showing where the prominent Jews live and where they house their art collections, gold, and other valuables. The Nazis paid him handsomely for each family he ratted on, by giving him a commission on the valuables the Nazis sold for top dollar, and also for each Jew that was arrested and taken to concentration camps where they were tortured and many killed in the gas chambers. Hopefully all you Andrew Gillum worshippers are paying attention to this, because the person you're praising gets money from this parasite. I will continue on here. Of course, George Soros is kicked and screamed that his organization's expulsion from Hungary was due to the hate campaign that has included propaganda posters and billboards invoking anti-Semitic imagery from World War II. Anti-Semitic? The only anti-Semitic action we have seen was George Soros making his first fortune by pointing out where the Jews in Hungary live and where they kept their valuables, for which he was handsomely paid. Now that is anti-Semitic. This is what you call a Euro Uncle Tom. That's Jorge Soros for you. To further make the case that it was due to hatred of the Jews that the Open Society Foundation, or OSF, was shown the door and expelled from the country, Patrick Gasper, president of OSF, stated the government of Hungary was denigrated and misrepresented our work and repressed civil society for the sake of political gain, using tactics unprecedented in the history of the European Union. Yes, and pigs can fly, and real men, real Americans praise Michael Moore, Rosie O'Donnell, Donald Trump, etc., right? Absolutely. Orban's government recently introduced a bill in Parliament to tighten restrictions on NGOs dubbed the Stop Soros Law. Speaking to his right-wing Fidesz party, the Prime Minister accused Soros of promoting Muslim immigration to dilute Hungary's Christian identity and sweep away governments which represent national interests. These are the very tactics he is employing to destroy the United States. In another speech, Orban criticized liberal democracy, saying that they are incapable of upholding Christian culture. George Soros has been a financial supporter for NPR, states its mission to build vibrant and tolerant societies whose governments are accountable and open to the participation of all people, according to his website. We seek to strengthen the rule of law, respect for human rights, minorities, and diversity of opinions, democratically elected governments in a civil society that keeps government power in check. How's that again? And remember, this is George Soros speaking, the beast who sold out his own people to make his first fortune, using that fortune to sabotage currency in other countries, bringing ruin while his fortune continued to grow. Soros is a committed communist who intends to put every country under dictatorship. He has caused irreparable damage to several countries who would like to get their hands on him. Russia has an international warrant for his arrest. I say throw that son of a bitch to Russia. Even though I'm not a big Putin lover myself, but you gotta get this bastard in justice. America needs to show some spine and take a lesson from Prime Minister Viktor Orban and expel Soros and his henchmen from the United States without further delay, which will give him an extra time to hatch his plot to destroy America. Readers, write to President Trump and show him this story and take action. The best way would be allow Russians to come in and arrest Soros and take him away. That would also improve our relations with Russia. Absolutely. You know, we all have differences, okay, which is all right. But this man, a gyno-fested tyrant that he is, needs to be brought to justice. I don't care what nation does it. And you got guys like Andrew Gillum, Hillary Clinton, and even Bono are bending over for the sap. That's right to you YouTube fans out there that still think they're the best band in the land. Just to give you a few examples. He's just not the only one, to be exact. We got to focus on Sheldon Adelson and the other person's name. And I almost had a brain fart here. Excuse me. Haim Saban or Sabin. Okay, Haim Sabin. Another one we have to focus on. And all those people out there worried about the NRA giving money, it's a spit in the bucket. Yeah, I'm pretty critical of them as well. But this man needs to have every warrant, a bench warrant from every country he tried to destroy. So I got to give Prime Minister Orban, the Hungarian Parliament, a thumbs up for what they've done. It's time to surround this man and his cohorts, cronies. That blowback is coming soon, and you're not going to do a damn thing about it. One thing I'm going to add on the list as well is the YouTube video pertaining to Soros on 60 Minutes. Which is a 1998 interview with George Soros in 60 Minutes. I'm going to post that on here as well, because this is very essential for all you folks out there to really know what's going on. It'll be a good full video, 13 minutes long. Is that it? Yes, it is. That's the one, I believe, right? Yeah, so definitely I'm going to add this to the memo. And this is why when people wig out why I don't support someone like Andrew Gillum, because when you got a parasite like him trying to call the shots, he's just another bellboy. I don't support bellboys. I support mavericks, freedom lovers, and sovereign thinkers. Andrew Gillum is no Frederick Douglass or M.S. Tux. Hopefully I pronounced his name correctly. Hope I got his name right. There are true freedom fighters out there. Gillum isn't one of them. He's just an example. And I'm not here to crucify the man completely, but I'm real critical and saying, oh yeah, I've been buddies with Soros for 11 years. Please. So I'm definitely going to add that to the memo on these footnotes. And folks, share it with everyone. Okay? That's the name of the game. That's how you got to look at it. All right. Next one here will be a couple from the Bob Livingston's alerts. And this one here is entitled Trump versus the Fed, where markets crash, who is to blame? This is by Brandon Smith. After a certain length of time studying history in depth, anyone who is honest and relatively objective to come that most of what we are told about our past in the mainstream is completely fabricated. We learn that much of such history is not about prosperity or heritage, and more about a continuous set of false narratives peppered with half-truths. It is to say, most of what we thought we knew is actually lies. Unfortunately, these lies can be complex to the point that even many alternative researchers get caught up in their own biases to the point that they lose track of reality. Of course, this is what propaganda and fourth-generation warfare is meant to accomplish. It creates a series of filters that thin out the crowd of truth seekers a little at a time. Those who make it through to the other side might discover the bigger picture, but when they turn around to explain what they have seen, there's sometimes hardly anyone left to listen, which is absolutely true. So I'm not going to argue about that at all. And it says here, intricate propaganda narratives are actually rooted in simple archetypal memes that resonate with the average person's sense of story. Think of mainstream historical events as more of a screenplay, as well with a well-practiced set of beats. And the people who draft this screenplay intend we, the public, to act as an audience with limited participation. Our jobs are merely to continue providing fuel for the machine with our labor until the machine no longer needs us, and to continue perpetuating with the fantasies that the machine conjures up as news feed fodder. There are many actors that read lines from a historic screenplay and act out elaborate scenes meant to emotionally manipulate the masses. These actors play the roles of politicians and leaders of state. They are banking moguls and corporate heads. They are media gatekeepers and manufactured celebrities. If a person sits in what appears to be a position of power, they are seldom what they seem. I'm explaining this condorum because a lot of people out there claim such things are obvious, and yet they continue to fall for the same kabuki theater over and over again. I am also explaining it because the subject matter of this article is a perfect example of fourth-generation warfare narrative in action. The latest escalation of what I consider an inviolable battle between the Trump administration and the Federal Reserve is not at all what the mainstream or much of the alternative media think it is. I have examined Donald Trump's dubious background and associations thoroughly in multiple articles. To summarize, Trump has been tied to globalist financiers and think tank members for at least 25 years. He has nominated and or stacked his cabinet with those same ghoulish people over the past 2 years. To illustrate the severity of the problem, I suggest readers look into people like Wilbur Rose, the Rothschild banking agent that bailed Trump out of the considerable Taj Mahal casino debts decades ago, who is now the Commerce Secretary. Larry Kudlow, director of the National Economic Council and advisor to Trump, is a former economist for the New York Federal Reserve. Just like what's his name? Oh man, I won the Obama's Timothy Geithner. I'm just laughing here. And Stephen Mnuchin, the Treasury Secretary, was a prominent member of Goldman Sachs. During the election, Trump's rhetoric surrounding the banking takeover of Washington was highly critical. Yet he now associates closely with the banking alumni that many conservatives would consider suspicious or untrustworthy in their motives. Some cycles out and replaced with yet more elite banking elites. At any given time, there are always several financial elitists looming in the halls of the White House, and the most of them are linked to the organizations which decidedly globalist mission. This fact should make it clear to anyone with common sense that when Trump goes to war with the bankers in his speeches, what he is producing is theater. So when I read the latest news that Trump is calling the Federal Reserve crazy and blaming them for the most recent stock market plunge in October, I point out this is likely even more theater. However, is likely theater with a purpose. In February 2017, my article, In a Battle Between Trump and the Fed, Who Really Wins?, I outlined why I conflict between Trump and the central bank would actually help globalists in their goal of dethroning the U.S. dollar that would reserve that as a world reserve in a way that makes it appear like a random catastrophe of political chaos rather than a planned event. This would clear the way for a new single world currency system, which is some internationals refer to as a global economic threat. In my article, Trump versus the Fed, America Sacrificed at the New World Altar, published in July, I went even further and predicted a choreographed clash between Trump and the Federal Reserve. Now it appears that this clash has been initiated. The fact that the mainstream financial media has suddenly reverted to panic mode over a drop of a couple of thousand points in the Dow Jones should give people pause. What this showcases is a change in tone to a previous declines in which the media shrugged off or dismissed falling equities as a mere correction. Today, outlets like Bloomberg talks a crisis. As I have noted in the past, the mainstream media and central bank do not warn of crisis far in advance like the alternative media. Rather, they warn of crisis mere weeks or months in advance, too late for the average person to do much to prepare. The recent change in attitude by the mainstream media suggests that the next page of the collapse has been going on since 2008 is here. For the globalists, this is a precarious time. If a crash occurs in a narrative vacuum, the public will naturally blame the most obvious culprits, namely the central banks and international banks. They are obviously culprits because they have essentially admitted to economic sabotage in the past. Ben Bernanke admitted that the Fed was responsible for the drawn-out pain of the Great Depression. Alan Greenspan admitted to Fed culpability for the bubble of the 1990s and the derivatives bubble of 2008. In 2012, Jerome Powell warned that when the Fed decided to finally institute interest rate hikes and balance sheet cuts, stimulus-addicted markets would crash. Today, as Fed chairman, he is implementing those exact policies, knowing exactly what the consequences will be. The problem is, once again, false narrative. Central bankers admit to play a large part of the historic crashes, but they pretend as they were unaware of the bigger dangers at the time. They also exploit scapegoats as to means to divert public attention away from their activities. For the Great Depression, Bernanke admits that the Fed's tightened actions into economic weakness prolonged and increased the horror of the Great Depression. Yet, the Fed's official position is to blame the existence of the gold standard, which is a big lie. And of course, Federal Delano Roosevelt, another bankster's butt boy, supported it. Okay, so I will continue on here. For the derivatives bubble, central bankers admit to a lack of foresight on part of the Fed, but still blame deregulation as a primary cause of the crash of 2008. For the next phase of economic decline in 2018, they have a new scapegoat, a scapegoat that's helping them, Donald Trump. As I warned in March, Trump's presidential career has far so closely and strangely matched that of the Republican President Herbert Hoover. Just before the crash of 1929, Trump has implemented major tax cuts, infrastructure spending programs, and major tariffs are all on the heels of economic instability, just as Hoover did. And much like the beginning of the Great Depression, the Federal Reserve is also hiking rates as the rest of the economy falters. As the history does repeat itself, right? I remember reading about this as well, about Herbert Hoover. So something to look at. Trump is providing perfect cover for the banking elites to continue pulling life support from the system of an imploding a 10-year bubble in stocks. His trade war can be used in numerous ways to offset any blame from the Fed as it deliberately demolishes equities in other markets. The fact that Trump has really taken credit for epic stock market gains the past 2 years also aids the central bank greatly. During his campaign, Trump warned that the stock markets were a big bubble created artificially by the Fed's low interest rates. Now Trump attacks the Fed as crazy for raising interest rates and deflating that same bubble. Trump is playing the special role in their global screenplay, that of the bumbling villain, the guy who had too much Herbius and destroyed everything. If the conflict between the private Federal Reserve and the White House continues, conservatives may get the outcome they always wanted, but with many strings attached as the farce goes forward, except foreign involvement in U.S. treasuries and the dollar to fall even further. 10 years ago, an audit or shut down the Fed could have reserved America's course for the better. Now it is possible that the globalists want to sacrifice the Fed and the dollar. Why? As noted in the Rothschilds' run in The Economist in 1988 and their article of global currency launch. In 2018, the dollar must be diminished in order to make war for a new model led by the International Monetary Fund. The Fed is nothing more than a branch of a franchise, and if its closing down wins the globalists more power in the long run, that is exactly what they will do. Trump's scripted follies are not only setting the stage for a market crash, which he and conservatives will be blamed for instead of the Fed, but also setting the stage for the death rattle of the dollar. To answer the original question, who is to blame for the coming disaster, both the Fed and Trump are to blame, as they are both playing their parts in the same false narrative. So you don't get one, you get them all. And even the predecessors did the same thing. So just to let you folks know that as well. George W. Bush, Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, all under the same boat. But there's one thing you always got to look at, my friends. Don't jump on some Lord and Savior bandwagon in 2020, because they're all a lot of these people right now, these established candidates, will be coming out of the woodworks. Or Cory Booker may be running, Eric Holder may be running. I believe they should just go back into their closets because they're contaminating space. A lot of people will be ridiculing those bastards as well, including many people from the Republican Party as well. And there's an even time too, according to the Bilderberg reports of this past year, the governor of Colorado may be running for president. So just give you guys a heads up. So you guys got to see things a lot further. Be vigilant. Support the gold and silver. Okay, I think that's why Texas is doing the gold depository the program, and even every state in the union should get involved in this as well. Article 1, Section 10 talks about that, about gold and silver could be used within the states. And that would be a great idea. So that's why stick to the U.S. Constitution in this area, but don't fall for the one-dimensional hype. Even the Trump haters or worshipers, beware. If you point the finger at one group only, then you're duping yourselves. Plain and simple. All right, I'm going to do one more here. Based out of from Bob Livingston. And this one here, the Trump's foolish and unconstitutional ethanol gambit. Like every master salesman, Donald Trump loves to tell his audience exactly what he wants to hear. Last week at a campaign rally in Iowa, Trump gave Iowa farmers just a political fodder they wanted. He even acknowledged that he was doing when he made his statement, according to the Wall Street Journal. And my administration protecting ethanol. All right, that's what you want to hear. Mr. Trump said at a rally in Iowa on Tuesday, give him points for political candor. Mr. Trump then announced that his administration will now allow fuel with 50% ethanol to be sold all year long. The Clean Air Act sets standards for fuel vitality, and E15 hasn't been allowed in the summer because it could cause smog. Most blends contain 10% alcohol. Ethanol fuel is a boondoggle that benefits big agri, corn farmers and refiners, and no one else. From its creation in the 1970s, stemming from the manufactured energy crisis, until billions of dollars have dumped into subsidizing the production of corn ethanol. Subsidies for corn ethanol litter the tax code, in which the case of government carrots and sticks policy and modifies behavior and distorts in the free market. Gas stations get or have gotten over the years massive tax incentives to install pumps to distribute biodiesel or 85% ethanol gasoline blends. As a result, corn, a staple used in many foods and also animal fuel, is being diverted by government subsidies into biofuels. In 2000, about 6% of U.S. corn production was processed in ethanol. Today, 40% of our corn becomes fuel instead of food. How nice, right? Making fuel from corn produces only 30% more energy than it takes to produce the fuel itself, according to the government and government industry sources. Some are even more optimistic, claiming up to 67% net energy gain. But a study published in 2005 by Dr. Walter Youngquist, PhD, Emeritus Chair of the Department of Geology at the University of Oregon at Portland, said that ethanol is a net energy loss. It takes 70% more energy to produce than is obtained from the product itself. A fuel produced from corn waste called cellulosic biofuel is worse than the environment than gasoline. A $500,000 study fueled by the federal government reported in the peer-reviewed journal Nature Climate Change that biofuels made with corn residue actually release 7% more greenhouse gases compared with conventional gasoline. Diverting corn to fuel instead of food reduce food supplies and raise the cost of feed for livestock, which turns to increase the price of meat, milk, butter, eggs, and other essential foods. Land that will be used to grow food crops is instead planted in corn for ethanol, which reduces the amount of food produced, a likewise raise prices. Can we say food shortages? Created by design. Additionally, ethanol fuels damage motors and reduce fuel mileage by anywhere from 5 to 7%. And it's interesting too because I have a friend of mine that does fuel at the Port Everglades in Broward. They had even the pipes in ethanol. They have problems, so there's a lot of issues with that when they even bring the ethanol, gasoline to put in the gas stations. There have been issues with that as well. A 2011 study by the Environmental Protection Agency found that E15 releases higher amounts of the pollutants, nutrients, oxidized hydrocarbons, sulfur dioxide, particulate matter, ground-level ozone, and ethanol vapor emissions into the air than lower ethanol blends from traditional gasoline. That's one reason E15 blends are not sold in the summer months. And testifying before Congress in 2016, Michigan professor John DeSico told Congress in 2016 that his research found that biofuels such as ethanol actually increase amount of CO2 in the atmosphere when compared to regular gasoline. That should be carbon monoxide, right? CO. But it's carbon dioxide. So I'm trying to, scratch my head here at times. So Trump's announcement last week that his administration will allow E15 ethanol to be sold year-round, something he is unable to do constitutionally now that it matters to anyone anymore. It's fiscally, environmentally, foolhardy, and collectivism and corporate welfare wealth redistribution on a mass scale. So this is interesting because Congress is supposed to make these laws, not just him with the stroke of a pen, okay? Come on. But Republicans voting farmers who claim to hate socialism except for socialism that lines in their pockets, love it. And Republican voters who claim to hate socialism except for socialism that lines in their pockets, shrugs. Meanwhile, we're all poorer for it because our food, cars, and gasolines are more expensive, but the money printers, the moneyed elite, make out like bandits. You see what's happening? Don't believe the hype, my friends. Okay? That's the name of the game. And it's interesting, too, because it's time to make hemp out of hemp for fuel instead. It'd be more victorious, and it will be less stressful. What they're doing here, too, is creating a lot of food shortages. But you can grow marijuana a lot quicker, or hemp a lot quicker, and it's a big abundance. So I say this: it's not more than another sham, and say all hail to corporate tyranny. Hip hip hooray, make America great again. Right? As long as my man's in there, I do nothing wrong. Same old song and dance, my friends. In the past, other presidents, the predecessors, none of these individuals, you should never look to them as your Lord and Saviors. Be vigilant, pay attention, and do a little research before listening to some rhetoric that wears a suit and tie and has all the money in the world. Because you know why? These people they'll belly up as these people do belly up to their masters. That's not the citizens of this nation. All right, that is it. I thank everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share throughout your social media networks. Furthermore, I will post all my social media sites and email contacts if you want to hit me up, recommendations, and all of that, okay? All right, my friends. Once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that demoniac resistance, healthy for the soul, and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading love. And may your guardian spirits be with you.